Hello my dear students of Prep 2. أهلا بيكم النهاردة طلبة الأعزاء من الصف الثاني الإعدادي. النهاردة حلقتنا تحت رعاية وإشراف وزارة التربية والتعليم. النهاردة احنا هنكمل يونت 1 اللي بدأناه الحلقة اللي فاتت، وهنكمل جزء الجرامر وهنكمل جزء الرايتنج، وده مهم جدا ان احنا نتعلمه. أنا عارفة ان بعض منكم عندكم صعوبة في كتابة حاجات أو الرايتنج in English، بس ما تقلقوش، احنا مع بعض ان شاء الله هنتعلم كل الحاجات دي وهتبقى in a possible way. So let's have the session today. Okay, are you ready? Get ready with your highlighters, pencils, and focus with me please. Now let's start. Okay guys, last time we talked about new vocabulary words. We introduced the difference between do and don't, does and doesn't, when do we have to use does and when do we have to use doesn't or do or don't, and the difference between them and the present simple tense in general. Okay, today's session is or will be focusing more on the present tense and how to form questions, but this time with WH ones. Okay, it's gonna be easy, don't panic, and now let's focus on the slides. Okay. Complete the questions, then give answer to them. Now, everybody of you, please make sure that you have your books and you have your highlighters and pencil to take notes after me if it's necessary. Okay. Okay, here we have something like this. What do you do? And this one is already answered for you. What do you do in your free time? I usually read a book. Okay, so here the question is different than the one we introduced last time, because it starts with WH, not do or does. Okay, so when you have WH question, okay, when you ask about anything, you use the question word what, okay, and then you have to add helping verb, do or does, if we are talking about the present simple tense. Let me circle it and to be clearer for you. Okay, here we have do and do. The difference between them is one is helping verb, okay, and one is main verb, main infinitive verb. So make sure that every time you start a question with what, who, any WH word, okay, you have to add do or does for the present simple tense. Okay, now what do you usually do in your free time? I usually read a book. I used usually as one of your keywords for the present tense, like usually, like the ones we mentioned last time. Do you remember? Let's say it together. We said about usually, always, often, never, sometimes. These are the keywords that let us know that we are in the present simple tense. Okay, let's have another question. Dots and do you live? Living here, mainly, we focus on what exactly? Are we talking about things? No, we are talking about places. So whenever you have any question about places, what's the WH question word that comes to our mind? Yes, I can hear some of you saying it. It's where. We use where for the places, to ask about the places. Where do you live? Where do you practice football? Where do you study? Where do you go during summer, for example? Okay, so let's have the answer. I live in Cairo. Okay, and of course, I live, I plus infinitive verb, it means that we are in the present simple tense. See here, I used do and then live. Okay, again, in the WH questions, you have to use helping verb, do or does in the present tense, and infinitive verb after the subject. Okay, and of course, don't forget the question mark, it's very important. Now, let's have question number 3. Dots, do you live with? So, what am I talking about here, guys? Can you guess? Definitely, I guess that you guessed it correctly. We are talking about people. So, if we are talking about people and we want to ask a question, we use who. Who do you live with? Okay, you can live with your parents, with your grandparents, with your family in general. So this is the answer. I live with my parents and my sister, for example. And space, do you get up? So can you guess what am I talking about here? Yes, It's about timing. So whenever I refer to time, I use when. WH question word, when. So let's have an answer. I always get up at 6 o'clock. Okay? So for the last question of this slide, do you get to school or do you go to school? If I'm asking about the way of how you go to school or how you go to club or how to travel or so whatever, I use the question word how. How do you go to school? I go to school on foot. I go to school by my bike. I go to school by bus. I go to school by my father's car. It means that my father drives me to school and so forth. Okay? So again, let's have a quick look at the 5 WH question words. We have what, where, who, when, and how. Briefly, we use what to ask about things in general. We use where to ask about definitely places. We use who to talk about or to ask about, yes, people. And we have when, yes, for timing, and for how we use about the way of how you do something, okay? I want you to jot down notes after me in order to remember later on while studying, okay, guys? So, as an answer, I usually walk to school. Let me ask you a tricky question. What if I want to talk about somebody else except for I? What if I want to say she usually? Shall I say she usually walk in the present tense? No, I say she usually walks, okay? So focus well on the pronoun. I mean by pronoun, I, he, they, you, she, and so forth. If you have I or a plural noun, you use infinitive verb in the present simple tense. But if you are talking about singular subject, like she, Maryam, he, it, we add S or ES to the verb. Like she walks, he plays, she travels, okay? So this is the difference and I want you to focus well on them. دلوقتي يلا بينا نشوف الاكسرسايز اللي جاي. Again, focus on your books, okay? We have 2 columns or 2 parts. عندنا جزئين, okay? A, B, C, D, or E, and from 1 to 5. We have to read carefully. My advice for you now, pause the video, اعملوا stop, okay? And try to answer. Then after answering, check your answer while playing the video again, okay? So have some minutes to do this exercise, okay, guys? Now, let's check what you have done. Number 1, or letter A. What do you usually do at the weekend, Nabil? Okay? I just want to focus on something. عايزة أكد معاكم على حاجة. When you ask somebody a question, when you address someone, okay? And for example, when I say, do you like apples, Maryam? أكني بقول, do you like apples? Yeah, Maryam. Yeah means this, comma, okay? Comma Nabil, comma Maryam, comma plus any name if you are addressing أو لو أنت بتكلم حد قدامك, okay? So this is what I mean by this comma, okay? What do you usually do at the weekend, Nabil? What time do you go to the bed at the weekend? Do you like football and why? How many people are there or are in your family and where do you live? Okay, now let's check the answers. Of course, 4A, because here, what do you usually do? I'm talking about things. أنا لسه بسأل على حاجة, okay? So here, the answer came, sometimes I go to my friend's flat. Here, I am talking about things that I am already doing, okay? Or sometimes I do. Letter B, what time do you go to bed? Here, I'm talking about time. So here, what shall I look for? إيه اللي المفروض أدور عليه؟ المفروض أدور على timing, clock, okay? Numbers. So, where is it exactly? Definitely, it's in number 5. So 5B. For letter C, do you like football and why? Do you like football? Of course, a lot of Egyptians like football, mainly the boys or the men, okay? And of course, our great hero and our idol, Muhammad Salah, okay? So here, let's check the answer. Yes, I do because it's fun. Why? Because it's fun and it's good for you. Of course, not every time we do love football, we do it because we love watching. Maybe because it's beneficial or help us keep healthy, okay? Practicing sports, keeping you healthy, guys. So then, how many people? Here I'm asking about the number. How many people are there in your family? 5. My parents, my grandma, me, and my sister. And of course, the left one, أو الواحدة اللي ناقصة خالص, where do you live in Cairo in a big block of flats. Flats, do you know what's meant by flats? Flats, شقة, flat, apartment, okay? Here, this is a skill of speaking and listening. Of course, some of you may know how to write English, but not all of you know how to speak and listen carefully and understands English. So let's practice this together to improve our listening and speaking skills. Do you have any brothers and sisters? If I want to ask about your family, okay? Do you have any sisters or brothers? So the reply may come like this. Yes, I do. I have one brother. Of course, I said yes, or I answered using yes because I have yes, no question, not WH question, okay? Then, who is your, or who is older, comma, you or your brother, okay? مين أكبر فيكم؟ أنت أو أخوك. Who is older, comma, you or brother. So, you can answer by anything. My brother is older than me, or I am older than my brother. These are simple questions in order to introduce yourself to your friends or to your teacher or whoever. Okay, now remember something very important. This is the thing I was focusing on in the previous slides. A yes-no question usually begins with a helping verb. As I mentioned at the beginning of this session and the last session, when you have yes-no question, you must start your question with do or does, if I'm talking, of course, about the present simple tense. And verb like do or did or does. Did if I'm talking about past. Do or does if I'm talking about present. Now, let's focus on present time only, which is about to do or does. Or, are, or where, or you. Okay, what about are or where or you? We didn't mention them in any of the previous slides. Okay, let me have a quick look at them. Here, are, is, am, was, or were. All these forms, guys, are forms of verb to be. To be in Arabic means أكون. If I want to talk about myself, if I want to express myself, I use verb to be. I am happy. Am mainly is used for the pronoun I. If I'm talking about myself, I am happy. I am excited to go to Hurghada or Alexandria, for example. What about is? In what cases I shall use is? With three pronouns or with any singular noun, like he, she, or it. Or a singular person, Maryam, Muhammad, Ahmad, Omar, Sharifa, okay? And are, I use are for what exactly? Yes, I use it with plural noun, okay? Or plural pronouns like they, like we, like you. Because you can be singular or I can address a group of people or audience, okay? So I can ask you now to jot down these details. They are gonna be helpful for you while studying. And for was or were, I use them but in the past simple tense. Now let's focus on only the present simple part, okay? Let's focus on another point, which is WH question words and WH questions in general, okay? They are like what, why, how, the ones that start with WH, as we mentioned in the previous slides, okay? So now we know the difference between how to start a question with a helping verb, which is a yes-no question, and how to start a question with WH question word, which needs information, not yes-no answer or short reply. So, read the article and choose the correct answers. We will have a short paragraph or a short article, and be ready with highlighters to take notes after me and to highlight the important details to help you answer the following questions after the passage. Now, my name is Shahana. I am from India. It looks like a weird name, اسمها غريب شوية, because she is from India. I live in a village with my parents, my brother and my sister. Highlight, these are important details. I share a room with my sister. We all get up early. We wake up early. There is an outside tap. Can you remember tap? The one of the vocab words that we mentioned in the last session? Tap, حنفية, okay? We all get up early. There is an outside tap outside the house at the end of the street. Where we live, my mom gets water from the tap every morning. Then we all have breakfast. We have bread, highlight. We have bread with a cup of tea. This is their breakfast. My dad works in a shop, highlight the job of her dad. I have 2 jobs to do when I get home from school. I feed the chickens, this is number 1, and the second job is that I help my mom make dinner. Okay, after dinner, I do my homework. Sometimes I help my brother and sister to do their homework too, then I go to bed. So that was a brief about her daily routine. Again, you remember the word daily routine? Something we do every day, every month, something we get used to do every day. Okay, let's have some questions. Now, choose. There are 5 or 4 people in Shahana's family. Can you remember? Can you count and remember? Yes, I guess you guessed it correctly. They are 5. And for question 2, Shahana lives or doesn't live in the city. Is it correct? Is it true? Let's choose the... Yes, doesn't live in the city because she lives in a country, in a big country, okay? She lives in India. That's why we said Shahana doesn't live. And let me remind you of this point. When you want to put a verb in the present simple tense in a negative form, we use don't or doesn't plus infinitive. And because she is a singular noun, we use doesn't, okay? If I'm talking about myself, I say I don't live, okay? Number 3, the family has or doesn't have water in the house. Do they have it or not? Let's check. Doesn't have. As we said, because her mother goes to the tap outside at the end of the street to bring water every day for the house. So this means that they don't have water in the house, okay? And the negative form of has is doesn't have or don't have, not hasn't, okay? Because it's one verb in the present simple tense, we have to add a helping verb. Doesn't or don't plus the infinitive form of has is have. That's why we chose family as a singular, subject doesn't have. Shahana has or doesn't have breakfast with her family. Does she do this? Let's check. Yes, she has it every day with her family. And for the last question for this slide, she helps her mother feed the chickens or make the dinner. Let's check. Yes, she helps her mother make the dinner. Okay. For the last thing of this session, we have to focus on. Read the conversation in order to improve the skill of speaking and listening. Okay, now ask for what is the point from the coming one. We have to match with these 3 points. Asks for something, suggests doing something, and asks what grandma has. Let's read first, and then we have to match every point with the one which is suitable with it. Yunus, it's a dialogue now. It's a dialogue. You know what's meant by dialogue? حوار, okay, between Yunus and grandma. Yunus, grandma, have you got a watermelon? Now, yes, I have. It's on the table. Yunus, can I have some please? He is asking her politely. يعني بيسألها بأدب. Instead of saying, give me some. No, he is asking politely. Can I have some please? I like watermelon. So the reply came, yes, of course. We need a knife to cut it. Now, shall I help you to cut it? Now, what is he doing? He's offering to help her, okay? The reply came, thank you, Yunus, but be careful with the knife. So, can you guess what is the point that asks for something? Can you guess from A, B, or C? What's the point that asks for something? I guess you got it correctly. Yes, it's B. Can I have some, please? Because he's asking for taking some, but politely. And what's the point that makes suggestion? You know suggestion? What's meant by suggestion? Suggestion means اقتراح. When I want to suggest something, I can use a lot of ways. Like here, this one. Shall. Letter C. Shall I help? In order to suggest something, you can say let's, like let's go to the club. or shall I help you carry the bags, or what about helping you study? All of these are ways to suggest or offer something to help others or to do something for others. Okay. For the last point, of course, asks what grandma has. This is for point A. Now, we are done. We came to an end of our session. Time flies with you guys, and I want you to study well what we have been explained or what we have been explaining throughout session 1 and session 2, because we have more interesting slides next sessions, and I will be waiting for you. Stay safe, please, and see you next time. Bye.